Okay, here we go again. We have the Banner of the Broken Cross, which is, of course, a epic poem divided into, I would say, 13 volumes, which themselves, because of course the volumes aren't going to fit in one book, into 10 distinct parts, which are actually books. I'm going to read the fifth super section, which of course each super section is a series of 6,000 words. And of course, it'll take me about 40 minutes to do so, give or take, and I'm going to start doing it. Let's start with the first character, who's Christian. Okay, here's the beginning of Supra Section 5. The speaker at the beginning is Christian. I had a vision clear as morning, that the woman from my dreams was in a panicked flight, fleeing from the wicked creatures who sought her soul. And forever she waited in the sky, in a place over these oceans, piercing her heart with the memory of other worlds which would never be approached. The brilliant lights in the sky forever showing a way to a new kingdom. But war is always coming, and it never eludes us. It always tortures us, breaks our hearts, and urges us to find a place to repair them. The subtle and patient wisdom of the hereafter. Then we switch to the character Natalie. My experiences, and of course she's the speaker, my experiences grew with feeling, chaotic and fickle winds of this fallen world, all torment in my heart. My venom against all those who would try to stop me. Their sacred spaces shall be torn down and uprooted. With the words of other worlds, run with me in dreams, follow me forever into the motion of fluid oceans that are above me and below me. The insides of me are filled with warmth and compassion for all wayward hearts. In me, you will see a queen who has ambition, authority, and the power to rule over the world, guiding us away from the path the world has taken. The aching within bones to at last find what my heart desires, longs for. The dreadful pain within my aching heart of longing to escape. The shell of the world has so quickly become. I drift through the storm of the worlds and find myself sitting just like you at a coffee shop. I pick up a book and start reading. The banter within this world, subtle visions of the experience the world could be, but which we will never find. The simple objects within the world of yours, which I have found, all come alive vibrantly. The heaven I crave falls so far away from my heart, and for once it would come alive. I put the book away and leave the coffee shop and start experiencing the world for myself, in search of the magic that I read about in those books. Magic rings of our own power, in other worlds, which we will never find. And I dreamed that I wore a crown. But in this world, instead of a red sky, there was a blue sky. And the cars filled the streets, taking people wherever they wanted to go, with no restrictions. All these sights and sounds were vivid and true and graspable. My lioness heart was untamed. All I ever wanted was to find myself in a story where I could play a part, fall in love, carry my own family forever into the future, hold my arms open wide for love, look into the eyes of my child who has not yet been conceived, and tell him or her that the strife in the world is temporary. The phantoms that fly across this world have no resting place. Like myself, I follow the road wherever it takes me, watching the television news about a free world falling apart, because even those who have everything they need break it to find out what it is, and then have nothing remaining. The magic in my heart grows forever. I continue to walk the streets, and everyone going from place to place and never stopping, the economics of a nation, the busy and worry of everyday affairs, the present anxiety that floods hearts, making it always painful to breathe. My desire was always for peace and joy, and the laughter within the world faded, and all that was left were lonely days spent in apartments, watching the darkness flood through, capsizing our hearts, boiling over with pain and visions of the future. Our hearts grew warm, our sunlight faded eventually, and we all slept and dreamed about other worlds. And in these dreams, I was the only one who could truly comprehend. I had relentless dreams about my child who was never conceived yet, who I swore to protect from the forces that made the world dark and covered it in shadows. The Dark Lord would never find my child, and I would flee this world to provide her with the safety she needed. The life in my heart grows forever in its patience, waiting to find a place in the world of its own, for my own family, in peaceful and gentle labored sighs. In the morning are what I dream about. The throne of shadows towers over the world, and not a soul in this world can find a lamp bright enough to pierce through the fog of darkness. The visions I had were real, they were true, and I woke up and found myself in my room, and I repeated the cycle again, boarded the train and went to work, labored so hard that my arms could not move at the end of the day, and forever repeated the endless circle of devastation. The victims in this world are those who have no way out of this same cycle. And the only place I could retreat to was into my dreams or visions, whatever you want to call them. The soldiers bustling through the streets, the preachers who I have never listened to, preaching fire and death from the sky. I dreamed about a better world where none of these things existed, where my heart of hearts would be free from the terrors of the night, of the sounds of gunshots waking me up constantly, of the constant vicious notion that I would never find anyone I loved. I don't remember my own family, where they are, or where they went, or what happened to them. My mind always cluttered by the amnesia of forever, desiring to find a world where I can remember. All I ever wanted was to be held in the arms of the wind, and maybe I could float away, somewhere the memories of my family have gone, and I can imbibe them and be happy, loved, understood, cherished. I had visions of what I saw in my dreams, a holiday they called Christmas, gifts exchanged for the birth of a king, who they all honored, and I had no idea what would have made this king worthy of such honor. The seas welcomed my dreams, and I always dreamed about floating on these seas, in the storm of the worlds, wishing one day I could find myself once again in that world, a peaceful and happy life. Lived in the arms of close family, and Christmas was what I craved the most. Gifts received and freely given, nothing holding us back from giving our whole selves to the ones we loved. Nothing ever holding us back, waiting and watching the snow fall outside, warm inside from the fire, hearts even warmer from what is shared inside these doors of ours. My perfect life I dreamed about was, of course, far from perfect, but it was enough. There had to be a world like that somewhere, where we could thrive and be happy. I envisioned all of these things, and dreamed of this world every time I closed my eyes, knowing how far it was from us. The only way to reach it was as a phantom, never truly interacting with this world, but the walls between us and that world were paper thin. We always desired to be there and to hold ourselves in the arms of those who love us. The precious life of mine forever flowed forward in its song, in its charity, longing always for those lights in my dreams, which I knew would guide me now and forever, and always into the future I would hold. The forceful nature of the future falling over us, dreading each workday, because I know the world I was born in is corrupted. There is something in the air that is darker and filled with sadness, and I wouldn't have known this if I had not seen the other worlds. Those worlds are the only thing that gives me hope, and I knew that I did not have the grace to save this world by myself. I knew that all I could do was fight in this world, but I would never have the victory. All I could do was dream about the world I wanted, but certainly I would never find it. The lights of celebration, the glasses we would never raise, the sadness falls over us in this world. Two worlds opposed to each other, two opposites drifted so far apart that we would never find the other world easily. You whisper its name and it is gone forever. With a snap of the fingers, never again will be heard from or experienced. It can only be dreamed of, but can never be found. This world was always at the mercy of the silence that always threatened that we would never find it. Its names were never spoken here. They had all been expunged forever. I always wanted my heart to beat together with yours, but the rhythm never matches. Always flows forward in tears and loneliness. The grip of the magisterium is about to entice all in this world into surrendering all power to the king. He will grip this world and never let go. He has been alive for over 2,000 years, and no one could oppose him or hope to overcome him. The dreadful king, as I call him, squeezes us all until we can no longer breathe, holds us and makes us hate life itself and give up, takes all the joy from this world, makes the sky always dark, and makes Christmas never come. The true Noel has departed far from this world. The dreadful king has always strived to keep him out. And the world is flooded with violence, thoughts of how the world will break and not withstand the force of its own weight. The religious devotion the world has to the dreadful king sickens me, fills my heart with disgust and anger, and hatred flows through its spirit across all the world, desiring another world where the dreadful king is defeated, where his magic is undone, where my victory song is sung everywhere the forces of heaven overcome the shadows once and for all. The unmarked graves litter this world. Of those who stood against him, the dark Lord will never stand for insults, will always retaliate in the worst way at the first sign of opposition, until no one dares oppose him again. Invulnerable, impervious to age or to harm, to fire, to swords, to stabbing darts, to the rising tides of the world, to the murmurs of war against him, he has total control over all the world. He sits on his throne of shadows and grows in his wisdom of the darkness. No one can see through this fog. No one knows what to make of it. It is hard to tell what the truth will be. All we are, wayward souls, hearts forever wavering in this night. The passing memories in my heart of the worlds I used to experience, of the galaxies above my head in other universes, of my constant need to leave this world. My heart flies on forward, toward what I always imagined would find me. The shades closing over our minds, and we sit in the shadows. And no light touches us. And there's nowhere in the world where we can flee to escape the torture in hearts broken across the world. My heart broken into millions of pieces, and its desire spreading out across all worlds forever. My visions of other places filled my dreams and took them over. The night in which we wait for the stars to fall and for the lights to fail. The dust across the sky, a trail of wisdom, a lesson it teaches us to hold our loved ones dear, to dream about lives lived across the stars, of pain and hearts constraining us, preventing us from moving or breathing calmly. Whispers to me, the dreams of our youth. Hold me like a cloud, but be tangible. Never leave me or forsake me. All I will ever do is long for streams of water falling over us. My dim hope for the future now all but extinguished. I know my calling when I listen closely to the soft whispers of the passing breeze. Not even here in this world could all traces of God be eliminated. There was no way to escape him even here. The frailty of the world and the uniqueness of it are tied up as one. The beautiful things are always created out of the dust and then broken into so many pieces as to become unrecognizable. Very few realize what is going on in the world, the nature of the very time passing beneath their feet and under their nose. My mind cluttered by the thought of panic in this world, the moment I realized the gravity of this very mortality that all of us share. And for some, there is no escape from hell. We long for something more. Something pure and honest and as welcoming as the morning of Christmas. And if we never find it, we will fall with our aching bones into a cycle of need, which may never be satisfied. The life in our veins, defending our family, fighting with brave hearts against any who would try to destroy us, even a king. Raging in his madness to seize control over all of us. He can reach out for us, but my heart was always reached out further through time, striving to find a love, a passion, a place where there is eternal life, where mortality no longer threatens us. My heart of hearts grows sad and desperate to become whole, to find somewhere a quiet and peaceful place away from the constant anxiety, a place where I can certainly rest my weary head, and all the fears leave me. My travel to the world was unexpected. My travel to the other world was unexpected, and I knew I would likely never find it again. Each world I traveled to never reappeared. All I ever found were different worlds, unfamiliar. Never could settle into any of them. I would always be a wayfarer traveling between all of these worlds. I will lift my head up to the Lord, even though I had never heard him call, only briefly felt his wondering touch. There are feelings as gentle as the wind, which we have no name for. A touch is all I crave, a grip on my wrist to whisk me to a place where I can find my stability and inner joy. Peace of mind that should have flowed through all created things in union with each other. All things were meant to grow in harmony with each other. There is always a need to reach the aching heart of the other. And if you are reaching out to me, then my hands reach out to you as well. But our only problem is the darkness that lies between us, making it impossible to reach you, except blindly hoping to feel skin against mine. I have always wanted to be yours, dreaming every night about being truly desired, wanted, and held in the arms of truth. Forever is never reachable. I have only one single moment at any given time. Reach out to me even if you cannot see me. The truth in hearts calls me to never forget my first child, who has not yet been conceived. I dream with a firm purpose reaching toward truth. Forever, fire in my veins glows on forward towards its ultimate goal. To come face to face with someone who it longed to see, to come up close to the face of God. In my heart I hear the voice of God and am called by God, forever into the oceans which call me by my very name, which only let me approach them at their own whims, never obeying my commands, disobedient as the winds of time themselves. My only hope is the memory of the time which fled from us, to return and hold me close as in its bosom. I feel I could be submerged forever in the oceans of my own emotional torments. For 1,000 years, no one would come and save me. The current of my soul were immense, and capsized any and all ships that attempted to approach it. Untamed winds and storms of the soul, growing and never diminishing in this life, always blowing tidal waves which no voice will ever command these waves to calm. And they will never be silenced, roaring and generous in the onslaught of these waves. My patient heart can outlast any and all seasons. Even the nature of time itself surrenders to my heart. When my heart wars against time, my voice echoes on pages that no one will read. My memories are immortalized, attaching themselves to my soul. And I will never let these memories sink into the water or ever travel out of my clenched hand. Gravity pulling these memories into my hand, so they will never be let go of. Will always stay here in my iron grip, my heart of gold, desiring to hold the memories in the will of my almighty heart will never be contravened. I breathe freely, and my voice collides with the itching ears of all in this world. My diligence of searching for a way out of this present world persisted through all seasons, all of them passing. I can imagine, as I've experienced for myself already, that in these other worlds there is a freedom I crave, which I hope we will find together. The city I always wanted to explore is unreachable, impossible to find or to understand. The fallen world and how any of the torments we have experienced in this present world was allowed to begin with. My visions of the future were all distressing, but every so often, a brief glimmer of hope slipped through and I could see through the canopy of darkness, the smallest hole in the sky, where the light started to seep through. My heart, enamored with this light, already sought it, but never found it where it sought it. The light came to me for brief moments on its own accord, and there was nothing I could do to make it stay. The train creaking forever, seemingly as if it would break. The train creaking forever, seemingly as if it would break at any moment. The lights flickering until we sit in total darkness, and I sit in darkness almost as if ready to sleep. There is no fear in my heart. My grace follows me always, even here. But eventually the lights return and the train arrives at its destination. And I get out and begin the work day, crafting, crafting and lifting, and I wish that I could put my talents to proper use, to create something for myself, like a home which I could hold and hope to never let go of, embrace it forever and fill this home with love. But all I can do is envision this future. I might never experience it, because I am a passing phantom. I become like the wind itself, and would never need a home. My home is the breeze itself. Open my heart to the love the world has to offer, so I can open myself up to love and feel something beautiful, and hold heaven close to my heart. Grow in patience and longing for the other world, where I sat and patiently waited, and grew in love with every moment. I know somewhere there are people who experience that world every day, but here I am, a dreamer who believes that the world might be within reach again, despite the overwhelming notion that I will never find it again. I realized that I had a gift. I had great things in store for my future, and that if there was a God, he was guiding me towards a better and brighter future, where I could feel and embrace the light of the moon and create something beautiful with someone I had always loved, just never heard his name. My designs and plans fail too often, and all I want is a hand to reach out to leave this world and find a secret world to fall in love with, to shout from the balconies down at the heretics who stare at us, who so far are entrenched in what they were conditioned to believe, have fallen into shadows. Crawl with me somewhere with words, with poetry across the empty streets of the future. The streets of New Orleans, where in dreams I heard music. But now, there are only prisons, where prisoners await their execution. The desire for power never led us anywhere but to a place of deception and lies, and lying tongues have always been the slayers of souls. Souls easily swayed by the passing winds of the dominance of power. Even when the song in the soul is more powerful, it flees from deceit and is not found in a world which love lies, grows in its trepidation and certain fears of falling into a world of hate. And the only thing that will ever purify this world is a war of the consuming fire, purging all the wicked and generous souls in this world without discrimination. And all the riches of the world will be destroyed in this fire. Rich and poor fall victim to the same flames, which burn eternally in darkness. The flames give no light, but destroy the world, a just punishment for what the world has done. The man who claims he will live forever, his wicked magic possessing him, I know not why, and I will never again bow or offer incense at his altar, because I must fall into the water of the storm of the worlds, which he will never enter. He has not the capacity or capability or the will to enter the storm, because all who wade in this water entice their whole selves to the will of God. Because although I have never met God, the life in my veins guides me forever toward the pleasant embrace of the waters, which would submerge me if I willed it. But instead, as tools of the divine, let me float and take me on their current to the place I would never arrive. The mighty winds of this world shake us, but the winds themselves are under the dominion of God. The wicked spirit had no control, no authority over the wind. In this wind, the message of God are heard clearly and without mistake, but only if you listen closely and do not say a word. The lasting darkness in my world flows forward, but darkness has no existence in itself. All it is the lack of light. We never see in a world possessed by the fading of light. Greet me in the morning, because I needed you now more than I ever have. The life in our love is something. Even though I have never met you, the power of my heart flows on forward in its energy. The law of love is never overruled. The power of my testimony is never overturned. The grace of my heart is never unheard once these airways are filled with its mighty message, which calms storms even in the storm of the world. A single voice enough, and I will never again stumble and fall over my words, knowing that even though the smog fills the air, and the nation is a wasteland for the most part, every day is beautiful, because even the king of hell could not pollute the earth, which God had filled with beautiful creatures, all expressing and thriving in their love. Even in a world that has been broken for so long, this land, a land of slavery, I see through the propaganda written on the walls of the train. I experience more every day, which makes me aware of the real hell we experience in this world. I begin to feel for all people, especially those enslaved or awaiting execution. How could I continue to live in this cruel world? All I ever wanted to do was fight. My rage began to boil up inside my heart. The only revolution that swelled inside my veins called me to war. But I had no weapons, no way to fight or even speak out against the darkness of this world. Life was a vicious routine where I was trapped with no power to fight. An endless routine of walking and waking in Pine Town and taking the train downtown to labor endlessly until I could no longer stand. And I could repeat the cycle 6 days a week. We would labor. We were victims of the machine of a world that forced us to work. I wasn't a slave, but I might as well have been. The work was endless and never done, and only provided me with tomorrow's meal and nothing more. And all I ever wanted was to flee very far away. I want now what the future will never offer. I drown in immeasurable certainty of boredom, power that is misdirected, no rewards for those who have no voice, no strength and no way to speak, words always ignored, but this world was not the world to have a voice in. The world we wanted was the world I saw visions about. I believe all of us wanted that. Whiskey on my breath, I fall asleep, dreaming about what tomorrow will bring, about the future doomed to fall into the same cycle of always needing but never finding, of the piles of words that I write that will not be heard by anyone, and likely will be burned and never be seen by anyone in any world except by the phantoms who pass between, totally unseen by all. No one can stop me from resisting in my heart, but we all cough up the same night air. The vomiting in the darkness never ceased, and anyone who was deemed unproductive will be put in line for execution. According to the authorities, there was not enough space in the world for those who could not produce. All we had were empty promises that were only used to entice us into working. For the rulers of this world who believed that no judgment would ever come to them, my despair caught up with me, and I knew it could only lead to panic, and panic would lead to death. My eyes gazing toward the night sky, wondering why we could no longer see the stars through the smog. I can hear in the crevices of the alleyways of the city, whispering voices which I wish I could understand or at least comprehend. Why they feel so much pain. The power in my mind to fight against the forces that sought my attention. My heart was heavy and made it hard to move in the world. Where I sit in my apartment, I sit and it falls apart, wishing I had known my family or had a chance to speak with them or even remember them. The holy chaos of the world, which tries to break the magisterium in pieces through confusion of dogma, of contradiction, sometime in the future, their own contradictions will destroy them. I would never lie, but honesty envelops me, my very being, and my mind is free, and it's patient understanding and longing to free the souls of others from the shackles around necks and hands. You have never felt it all until you have felt completely. Emotions must be tangible and their power is unstoppable. When this is true, there is nothing more powerful than a heart at war with the world. My darkness floods the world. In my anger and my unrelenting hatred for those who would try to grip us, squeeze our necks until the breath would no longer be found. My memories are what I searched for. I searched for hope, but none was found. I dreamed of the daylight crashing through the smog, but it never did. The machines I had to run day and night, they ran day and night. There was no end to work. My only crime was daydreaming and drifting off about the experiences I had about the other world, in which freedom rang true, in which the seas all glistened with light, in which my heart was filled to the brim with water, ready to be exhilarated in the rhythm of the sea raging, of the glorious return in the world of the light, lighting up the seas so that all can view these raging storms, which not only capsized all ships, but invoked fear into the hearts of the nations that sent them. Because my heart rings true, in its rhythm ascending up to heaven, hoping that somewhere in between the distance of your heart and mine that there is indeed some truth, and that we can navigate these storms together. All flesh grows silent as the seas rage, mighty winds causing all to tremble, and my heart drifts away from all earthly things, craving a Savior, to reach down to the world that he had never visited. The teacher has the power to instruct us all in true wisdom, so that in understanding this wisdom, we will never fail. In our bitter endeavors, our wars, the hosts of heaven nowhere seen, because the clouds are always covering the stars, and I dream of the realms of endless day. But the power of hell would vanish in a single word, as the smog over these cities clears away. I follow after nothing but truth. My present anxiety is nothing compared to my iron, firm heart, holding a light inside, glowing forever, my sacred heart. True devotion only comes from the heart, and can only be directed to what is beautiful and freeing. The light of my body is led by the sparrow, and all I can do is follow his enticing song. He calls me. I will not reveal this song until the proper time. A voice unleashed in its hopeful rhythm. My mind alone is in the current of power, united to the will of God. If I can find him, my greater purpose reaches out, with arms outstretched to hold any who would need comfort. Though my purse had no cash, my heart is full. I am free as the open world, sure as the water is sure to crash against the shore. Bright as the glistening sea in the sun, we know all truth, wherever the light may strike. I follow the voice that leads me out of the darkness into the light forevermore. I have a strength in my heart that guards me. I will therefore never be a wayward soul, will always chase after the peace in this world that I have lost. I will say it again and again. God calls me by my true name, and I breathe because of him, sustained by his heart, warmed by the light of his sun, and no one will strike me down unless he allows it. And perhaps outside of this world, after my bitter death, that is, I will have some sort of hope of reaching God. My anthem rings true forever, hoping for once again escape from the daily routine of running the machine 6 days a week until I collapse. The splendor of my dreams makes it life worth living, because these visions show forth meaning, and that somehow, maybe, there's a chance that I will once again flee from this very world and find yours, and we can celebrate what we have, that we have love in the desperate shell of a world dumbed down by so many drugs and diluted by a false religion, or under the grip to the extent that it would never move again. The bitterness of the passing seasons tell me that I will never know the world I reached out for. I'm the only one in the world who feels this way, or so it seems, and loneliness leads to suffering and anger and war, waged with a heart spurned by those who never understood this heart and had no time to wait for it, to heal or to even listen to it. I do not know what was taken from me, but a gaping hole or wound where it used to be, and Love springs into everlasting life. My veins bleed out forward forever. With a certain and dejected desire to hold itself in the warmth of perfection. A void can only be filled with created things. Creation is what guides us in our lunge forward into the future. Stay with my heart forever. I can hope for nothing more. When I'm faced with impossible tasks. When I am greeted by the light of the current of wind, my mind follows this wind and is anchored somewhere firmly by God. The great and eternal divide between the way the world is now and the world I long for is insurmountable. The currents flow forever in the storm of the worlds, connecting all worlds together in unison like an airport, where everyone can travel freely without disruption or restriction. My passion grows forever without limit of how much it can grow and experience, and this life is filled with moments where I hope for a way, as I will say again and again. The hopelessness in this world sometimes becomes all I know, and darkness clutters the alleyways where the poor live and die because they were deemed unworthy. No dignity was seen in being poor. My life glows forward with the life in its veins, unrelenting in its lunge forward, whatever it can take, a reach. If you can reach as well, I hope that when we reach at the same time, that some way, somehow, we might find a way to pull each other through the storm of the worlds. The domain of my heart was unsearchable. No one would enter it unless I let them in. No voice of darkness could ever tempt me or put evil into my mind. My thoughts were my own, although my passion was overwhelming. The glow in my heart poured out forward with love toward all those I could not reach. My no longer having any concern at all for myself. All my concern was now and always on behalf of the wayward souls of this world. My heart was wayward, drifting off to sea as a lost sailor, hoping to find what I could never reach, as I suppose all are enamored in such a way, who experience such things. But still, there was that voice that called me, that I knew was there. The glow of the screens at night were all I saw. Updates in the wars in distant nations. The blood in my veins flowed thickly. It was ready to be spilled for the right reason. The passion in my heart of gold flowing forever into the future which greeted me, with its shame and its fear. But as long as I have my dreams, I would never need the fallen world, because the voice which called me in dreams was real. And even though I couldn't literally hear him speak, words filled me with passion and longing. Because I had never heard anyone speak like this. The teacher was the voice of wisdom, and I would follow him into the fire, and I would come out unscathed. I would walk on the water and then find holy lands, where I would feel no need to wear sandals. The ground sacred, the life in veins bursting forth with passion and praise for what was unseen. But my sacred heart was only sacred because of the one who made my heart and christened it with love. Although fallen, I still believed in the promise of being saved, of being held in the arms of one who would understand all things and knew the end of the story before it started.